Hello friends, welcome to another powerful and game-changing video. Today's episode isn't just another piece of news. It's a story that rips the mask off global politics and exposes the truth behind one of the most powerful military alliances in the world. NATO. Yes, you heard that right. India has openly called out and exposed NATO's chief. And not over some trivial issue, but over a false and highly dangerous statement involving Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. This statement has proven one thing beyond doubt. Today, wars aren't fought only on the battlefield, they're also fought in the realms of information and narrative. And in that arena, India is no longer just a player, it's becoming a game changer. Recently, the Secretary General of NATO, the top leader of a 30-country military alliance, made a shocking claim during an interview. He said it was the pressure and tariffs imposed by Donald Trump that led Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to call Vladimir Putin and ask about Russia's war plans, and that Russia shared those plans with him. Just think about it. A claim this sensational? And it didn't come from a fringe commentator or a local newspaper. It came from the head of NATO. India's reaction was swift and crystal clear. The government completely rejected the statement, calling it careless, unacceptable, factually incorrect, and entirely baseless in diplomatic language. Those words are extremely powerful. India didn't just deny the claim. It shredded it apart. The message was clear. This never happened. And we expect institutions like NATO to speak responsibly. Why did NATO do this? So why did the NATO chief feel the need to spread such a false narrative? Here's where the real story begins. During that same interview, a journalist questioned Donald Trump's unpredictable approach, how he often says one thing and does another. Instead of addressing the question, the NATO chief seemed eager to defend Trump. He dragged India into the conversation, unprompted, and began constructing a narrative to support Trump's decisions. Let's call it what it is. To defend Trump, NATO used India's name as a pawn. False narratives are being built to legitimize US political decisions. India is not a country you can drag into your story. India's anger is absolutely justified. India is not a small country anyone can casually talk about. It is now the fifth largest economy in the world, the face of the global south, and a strong contender for a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, what NATO really is today. NATO was created to counter the Soviet Union during the Cold War, but after the USSR collapsed in 1991, NATO still remained. Why? Because its purpose evolved into advancing Washington's global agenda. Wherever America wants a war, NATO is there. Wherever America wants pressure, NATO issues a statement. And now, when America wants to protect a political narrative, NATO is ready to bend the truth. India's response wasn't just a denial, it was a warning. Did Modi really call Putin about war plans? The short and clear answer, absolutely not. India and Russia do have regular high-level conversations about energy, defense, and global developments. But never has India asked Russia for war strategies. India has always followed a clear foreign policy approach. Promote peace through dialogue and diplomacy, maintain balanced relations with all major powers, avoid becoming part of any single bloc. That's why India buys affordable oil from Russia and maintains strong trade and strategic ties with the US and Europe. This balance frustrates many in the Western establishment because India is no longer a country they can pressure into compliance. India now plays by its own rules, NATO's credibility on the line. This false statement wasn't just an attack on India, it damaged NATO's own credibility. If the leader of the world's largest military alliance is willing to make up stories for political convenience, who can trust NATO anymore? Is NATO still the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or has it turned into the Narrative Adjustment and Trump Organization? India's firm rejection was essential, because if such a lie had gone unchallenged today, tomorrow it could have become accepted history. Future generations might have believed that India really did ask Russia for its war plans, a complete fabrication. When NATO was formed in 1949, it was said, this alliance exists for the collective security of Europe and North America. But over the past 75 years, NATO's actions have told a very different story. Instead of bringing peace, its interventions have often brought war, chaos, and instability. Iraq, 2003, the US and NATO allies invaded under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction. Those weapons never existed. Afghanistan, 2001 to 2021. 20 years of occupation ended with a chaotic exit, leaving the Taliban back in power. Libya, 2011. NATO bombed for democracy, toppled Gaddafi, and left the country shattered and divided. Syria, a failed attempt to remove Bashar al-Assad resulted in hundreds of thousands of civilian deaths. So here's the real question. If NATO truly stands for peace and democracy, why do its bombs always fall on oil-rich nations? Why doesn't NATO intervene in Yemen, Palestine, or African conflicts for the sake of democracy? The truth is simple. NATO is not a peace organization. It is the military face of American hegemony. And now this same NATO wants to lecture India about global security. But India's response was not just words, it was a geopolitical message. India knows that if it bows to NATO pressure today and cuts ties with Russia, tomorrow NATO will say, stop doing business with China, cut off trade with Iran. Consult us before making regional decisions. And that is something India will never accept. India's core principle, strategic autonomy. India's foreign policy is built on one core principle, strategic autonomy. This means India will not join any bloc. It will build relationships based on its national interests, not foreign pressure. The best example is India's decision to buy cheap Russian oil after 2022. While the entire West boycotted Russian crude, India purchased it at a discount, strengthening its economy. And now, the same European nations that criticized India are quietly buying Russian oil themselves, but behind closed doors. This is the new India, one that neither bows to pressure nor fears threats. The West's new strategy, divide and influence. Ask yourself, why did the NATO chief suddenly issue a statement asking India to distance itself from Russia? Because the West is worried. A strong India-Russia partnership could disrupt their geopolitical plans in Asia. India's active role in BRICS and SKO could challenge dollar dominance. If India emerges as a global mediator, America's superpower image could weaken. That's why the new Western agenda is clear. Divide and influence and a separate India from its allies and pull it closer to the Western orbit. But India's message is crystal clear. Our partnerships are not dictated by any third party. Our foreign policy is crafted in New Delhi, not in Brussels or Washington. This is not just about one statement. It's the start of a new era where India doesn't let false narratives go unchallenged. India is no longer a side character in global politics. It's becoming a main player. And any power, even NATO, that tries to spread misinformation about India will face a firm and strategic response. That's why global headlines now read, India exposes NATO's hypocrisy. India questions NATO's credibility. India no longer fears any global power. But remember, this is just the beginning. The real players, from Trump's politics to the West's yes-man culture, Pakistan's appeasement, and US media manipulation, are yet to fully enter the game. And when they do, the geopolitical chessboard will look very different.